You can start in a minute, Ranju.
Okay. Today we will study about diaspora in India and unit number 80, Tibetans, Sri Lankans, Afghans, and the Bangladeshi refugees. So what we will explore is that about Tibetan refugees, Sri Lankan Tamil refugees, Bangladeshi migrants, Afghan refugees, legal status and policies of refugees in India, economic and social conditions of refugees, international roles of organizations, and major challenges of refugees. Cynthia, you are there, right?
Yes, sir. I just joined in.
Yeah, no problem. Cynthia, we will be.
No, I think we need some, like Santhia and Basir and all. Please do one thing, my request, Santhia and all. You can be a rallying point for motivating other students and find some way to make, teacher, student, or, those who speak and other side, both are equally important. We are also learning from you, okay, how to make this very effective. So, I like Santhia's engagement, the way she asks questions, the way she also discuss things. That kind of thing we need from 2, 3 other people so that our classroom will be very interesting. We need to come with some preparation. So if not also, these are all lots of common sense is required for all this. Like we are familiar with how many communities are in India. We have, some. Santhya, you are from which place?
I'm from Tamil Nadu, sir.
So you have, I think, in Chennai, you have Armenian diaspora and some other communities are also there. You may be familiar also. So some kinds of insight you can give while discussing this. Okay.
Sure, sir.
Okay. Sanju, you can start.
Yeah, Dr. Sadar, what you said is absolutely true. When the audience get engaged, it's really good that it's a learning process for us also. However, we know whatever things is happening, new things, even Satya, Bashir and all, their engagement was really good. I suggest and I hope that we have this WhatsApp group of these students in this batch so that we can communicate through WhatsApp and make the engagement more happening than being so silent and listening. What do you suggest?
So we already have a WhatsApp group for this batch, 2024 MA and MIDI and PG MIDI. Yeah, so I think Sada sir has been like active in sharing the links for the class and the information.
Satya, what are you doing basically? What is your background?
So I am working with an NGO right now, where I'm working with the farmers in the Salem district of Tamil Nadu, where I'm trying to come up with a pilot project which would address their uh, major challenges, especially post-harvest operations, and also trying to equip them with financial literacy and awareness program. And also another part of my intervention is to empower women from the local community to be able to make value addition to millet produce so that they can start up a business on their own once my project reaches an end. So I'm at the last 6 months of my project, sir.
Okay, fine, great. So, are you being funded by any international organizations?
Sorry, sir, I didn't get that.
Are you funded with from some international organizations?
No, sir. I am working with the CSR of JSW Steels right now.
Ah, okay, okay.
Yeah.
And Bashir, I see that you are online. How about you? What are you doing?
I am working in Jammu and Kashmir government at a fairly senior level. I am part of the Jammu and Kashmir Administrative Service. My education is I have done bachelor's in science and then I shifted to mass communication and journalism. I have done my post-graduation in mass communication and journalism.
Why it would be interesting for me to know that why are you interested in migration and a degree like this?
I had intention to join any suitable or any suitable course for me in the IGNOU. When I went through that prospectus, there were many options, and one of the options was this international migration and diaspora. So I have certain interests in understanding international relations, international dynamics, etc. I thought this is probably what I otherwise also like. So I thought to just take up this course.
Before you joined Basiri, I was just telling Santhia and you and Kartika, and we need some kinds of discussion type engagement. So you have been doing very good, all three of you. I think some more people can make things further better, because lots of things comes out through discussion, because many things, if you study the material, many things will be clear when we discuss things, and many are actually in the common sense domain. Okay, and I have been seeing you, Santhya and Kartika, making very valid point. I thought of joining, but I thought let the Dr. Ranju take care of this thing. It's very interesting things I can listen from you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good that
Ranju now.
Yeah, it's good that we have to discuss much more about all these things, not in the class time. Now we will start with the class. So we will start with the refugees in India. There are Tibetan refugees, Sri Lankan refugees, Bangladeshi migrants, some refugees are there, Afghan refugees are there, and then the legal status and policies of refugees in India, the economic and social conditions of refugees, international organizations' roles in the refugee management and major challenges for refugees. These are the things which we will go through in this chapter. Before we go into the Tibetan refugees, I know only two of you are there, but I would like to know from both of you or either of you, what is the difference between a migrant and a refugee? This is a very important, to me, it's very important a question. How much you understand what is a migrant and a refugee? What is the difference?
Migrant is if somebody could migrate from one place to another for taking some occupation for mainly for economic this reasons, so or any other educational etc. But refugee status is something different. It is mainly for escaping any persecution in the home country and taking asylum in some other country or taking refuge in some other country.
Okay, fine. I'll come back to you. Definitely, I'll come back to you. Before that, Santhia, do you have any comments?
I think, sir, adding more to what Bashir sir has just said, migration or a migrant moves from one place to another out of by choice actually. So when you are like not always, but then you have an option to not move also. But in case of a refugee, there is always a threat, or there is always a compulsion to take that action of seeking. refuge from another country or another society. So yes, sir. It's one is voluntary, another one can be said as involuntary.
Agreed. Fair enough. Good answers. But having said that, I need to know from both of you one similar question. Then, if this is being said, what is the difference between stateless people, person and refugee?
Stateless person can be regarded as someone who doesn't identify or who doesn't have national identity, or who has been banned from, I don't know, a particular country of origin or a particular country in which they seek refuge. But then, in case of a refugee, they always hold an identity as a person coming from so and so country. The origin, the identity of their origin is always maintained, and they're always regarded as the population that came in as a result of this crisis. They're always held with that particular identity. But then, in case of a stateless person, it's like they don't belong to any or one particular state. This is something I think
Okay, no,
of.
fair enough. Your understanding is fair enough. I will come back to you, Sanitya. I'll definitely come back to you. But before that, Bashir, do you have a differentiation between stateless and a refugee?
Yeah, what was already spoken by my fellow student, I think it is clear from the word itself. Stateless means who are cannot be ascribed to any state, and these are those people who cannot go to their home country and probably are not citizens of that country, and also are not citizens of the country where they want to go, take refuge.
Okay, wait.
Who don't have any citizenry this rights.
Okay, to both of you, let me ask you something. You both have explained it in a way you understand it best, and I agree. I appreciate it. But tell me one thing. If you are born, you will be born out of a parents, and the parents will definitely in this world will have definitely have a nation or a nationality, right? In that case, how come we still have stateless people in this world?
That could be where the rules are like that. The person who is born in some other country uh, cannot claim naturally citizenship of the country of his or her
Why?
parent.
Why? That's exactly what I want. If he is born of a country, why is he not able to claim a citizenship of that country? Even if I am born in India and and my parents and whoever it is, my ancestors, whoever, they are criminals. They are whatever sort of illegal activities they do. Still, I remain to say that I am an Indian citizen. But if that is the case, how do we have stateless people?
I think that has to do with the rules of a particular country.
So in that case, Constitution of India doesn't allow a citizen to have dual citizenship. So similarly, other countries might also have certain citizenship laws which doesn't really apply to certain countries. Would that be a possible answer?
Okay. You both have been quite aware of what is happening in Gulf countries. There is a considerable level of war happening between Israel and Palestine, right? Palestinian people are termed to be stateless. Why? They are not called refugees in any country. Palestinian people are not called refugees in any country. They are called stateless people. Why?
Because Israel doesn't recognize them as a city, as their state, as their territory as a state. So that is the reason.
But Israel is not the deciding country. If Israel doesn't decide, that India is not a territory for them, will we become stateless? No, right?
Yeah, Israel as a state, as if it is not accepted by Israel as a state, other people may accept the people, other countries may accept them as citizens of the Palestine state. But since that is under the control of Israel, Israel doesn't accept that as a state. So that as a corollary, they become stateless people.
You both are into the point, but still, I just want to engage with you on this thing. So you mean to say that Palestinians have a passport?
Pardon?
You mean to say that Palestinian people, whoever is born in Palestine, they have a passport?
They have passports. They have.
I don't know. I'm asking you. Do they have a passport?
Yes, they have passports.
So if they have passport, if only Israel is not considered them as a state, why are the other nations all over the world are not considering them as a state, and they are still stateless in all the countries?
So that's
Because the
probably
boundaries,
because
the components of the state which should be there. Well, the first and foremost is the sovereignty. When there isn't any sovereignty, though, they cannot be taken as a state for that matter.
Okay. Anything from Santhia? Santhia. Your name is Santhia, right?
yes, sir, Santhya. So, I mean, in this case, it's more like we are trying to, kind of derive the authority or the recognition of a state from the existing Israel state, isn't it? So then it's more like a difference between calling India as a British dominion and India as a independent country. So we are trying to derive our identity or identity of a state from an already existing state. So as long as the existing state does not recognize us, I don't think it is going to be possible for the other countries across the globe to be able to say that, Palestine is a state. So I think Israel's approval is kind of important and necessary for the global nations to accord the state identity to Palestine.
Okay. Agree. More or less, both of you were right. Stateless a person means he is not having a country of his own, or the country where he claims he is not recognized by any of the UN accorded countries or the countries across the globe. Anyway, let us start with this thing with Tibetan refugees. Who are Tibetan refugees? The Tibetan Refugee Community began arriving in India in 1959 following the Chinese invasion of Tibet. And major settlements include Dharmasala, Bailakupe, and smaller communities led by 14th Dalai Lama Tenzin. Tenzin has been there in many of the places. For that, let me ask you something. Tibetan refugees, where do they have their their in exile? I mean, they are in exile from their country. They are in exile, but they have a government in exile who is still controlling the Tibetan communities from India. Where does that place exist? I mean, where is that place of their government? I mean, in India, Tibet is having a government. It is run from a place. Where is that place? Do you know?
No, sir.
Can you please repeat it?
Tibetans in India are refugees. You accept that fact, right?
Yeah.
However, Tibetans in Tibetans have a government. In Tibet, they don't have a government because it has been invaded by China. They have
China,
a government. They have a government, and it is running in. It is running from a place in India. Where is that place?
I think it is Himachal Pradesh.
Yes, where in Himachal Pradesh?
McLeodganj.
No.
Somewhere it is. I have forgotten the name of that place, but it is surely in Himachal Pradesh.
It is in Himachal Pradesh, and it is a town.
Where there is the place is. I'm just that place is in my just before the eyes, but no, I cannot recollect its name. It is Dharamsala.
Dharamsala, exactly. It's in Dharamsala. Dharamsala is in a town in Indian state of Himachal Pradesh, from where the Tibetan exile government is working. Okay, fine, fair enough. What is the current status of the Tibetan refugees? No, look, we will discuss these things in deep in more varied way. But before that, do you know that whether these refugees, if you are a refugee in a country, what are the rights you have? For example, different countries have different rights. Leave it. What if you are a refugee in India? What are the rights you can enjoy in that country? You have any idea about it?
I think certain fundamental rights are not available. Mostly they are available. There are certain legal rights which are not available. But it is mostly concerned with protection and dignified living of the particular refugee. Those rights they have, but they cannot take property. They cannot vote. There are many other restrictions, but mainly it is associated with giving refuge and dignified sort of treatment to the refugee. Those rights are there. Certain fundamental rights are available, but not all.
Okay, fair enough. So we will check into that one. Current status of the Tibetan refugees. We have approximately 100,000 Tibetan refugees in India, and it is governed by the Central Tibetan Administration, Dharmasala. That's what I asked you. It's the administration office in Dharmasala from where it is being governed. Tibetans in India hold registration certificates granting limited rights such as education and employment. So that is about Tibetan refugees, and we have to know about the challenges faced by Tibetan refugees. Now, there are a lot of challenges being faced by refugees. Can you explain? Any one of you can give me a, a rough figure of what would be the kind of challenges they have faced uh, being a refugee. Other than that, which I have, okay, it's written there: identity integrations, economic opportunities, political uncertainties. Other than this, do you think that they have challenges?
Yeah, sure, definite challenges because the first is the right to return. They probably don't have that right to return in the existing system. So they cannot go back to their country, and they cannot get full rights in the host country. So that is a challenge.
Okay. What else, Cynthia? Anything from your side?
So I think, of course, like when we are a refugee in another country, that itself is a bigger struggle in itself. And as you have like pointed out in the slides, so these are this almost like encompassively covers the major challenges faced by them. And again, there can be certain challenges when it comes to the acclimatization of the culture and the type of lifestyle they have to live here. So, but then when we look at the basic challenges, it's going to be these. But again, I kind of want to pose a question like, how do we determine that this is essential for a refugee to live in another country, and to kind of say, like, okay, these are the rights that a refugee might need in a better condition or something of sorts?
Well, it's a good question. But to answer that question, let me tell you something. You are an Indian citizen, and imagine I am a refugee. Agreed?
Okay, sir.
We both studied in the same school with the
Okay.
same curriculum, and
Hmm.
we from school to graduation we graduated out.
Okay.
And then you end up
Hmm.
applying for jobs, and I end up not, because there are certain things which is required for application for a job, like Aadhaar card,
Hmm.
nationality details, and all. Okay.
Right, sir. Hmm.
In that
Yes, sir.
case,
Got that. Hmm.
how refugee you will justify yourself that it's right, because you both studied in the same college, you both graduated from the same university, you both got the same knowledge, both got the same uh, rankings or degrees and same percentage. In spite of that, one gets a job, the other doesn't, just because it's a refugee, right?
Right, sir. Right.
That is, there are so many sort of constraints in their life. So, say, for example, Right to Information Act. I suppose it does not apply to the refugee. Refugees cannot seek information from the government. So there are so many such constraints. They cannot
Hmm.
own property. They cannot sell property. They cannot own property. They cannot have access to all fundamental rights. But there are n number of issues that way.
Yes. So we have n number of issues, n number of challenges that were, but the main thing is when you compile everything, it will compile into identity and integration. That is the main thing. The economic opportunities, just as what I said just now to Cynthia, and the political uncertainties, uncertain future due to China's growth and influence and global geopolitics will ever Tibet will become free out of China's hold or not, is another important phenomena. Now we'll come back to Sri Lankan Tamil refugees.
Well, last year I was in Leh. So there is a Tibetan market. I went for
Hmm.
some shopping there. There was a lady selling some cloth.
Where were they?
Leh, last year, Leh. So she had two daughters. They were living in US, and she with her husband is living in Leh. So I asked her a question out of my curiosity. What are her plans? She told me she's waiting. She told me we are waiting for what happens to Tibet question and what development is there. So we are living a life of uncertainty, waiting for our return to Leh. So that is the, I think, such a big handicap when one cannot plan what they intend to do in their lives, where do they want to settle, what occupation they want to take. So that is there many such problems.
True. It's true. So refugees altogether, whether it is in India or it is in another countries, they have all these kind of problems coming up. So it is more or less the same thing everywhere. What about Sri Lankan Tamil refugees? Inception, the civil war between the Sinhalese government and the Tamil separatist group LTT led to the significant refugee influx, and this influx happened in Chennai and in Tamil Nadu, and Santhya, you will be knowing it in details, right? The key periods was during 1980 to 1990s. So, what are the challenges they would have been facing? It will be the same thing, legal recognition for sure, and return and reconciliation to Indian community is another one. And there is another issue, challenge that they had been facing. Most of these Tamilian refugees that had been facing is the poor living conditions, where they were kept in camps and with limited access to resources, and they had been, maltreated many of the places. So I am sure that Santhia will be knowing more about these Sri Lankan Tamil refugees, right?
Yes, sir. I have been I've been following up on that issue.
So how do you feel? Do you feel that there is a development that is happening in among these people?
So I personally feel like there's a constant influx and change in the situation, uh, because based on the ruling party in Tamil Nadu, the situation gets affected. For example, if it's so based on the ruling party, I mean to say that a certain party that fights for Tamilian rights would a political party would actually give certain benefits to the refugees, and other party, if they are going to come into power in coalition with 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 another party in the center, they are going to face this handle this situation differently. So what's what's remaining at the end of the day is that uncertainty that is faced by these refugees. And as you have highlighted earlier, the conditions of the living conditions have been quite challenging, in sense of like getting access to education. I mean, they have created a particular place where it's just this refugees alone, but then is the standard of living anywhere comparable to the standard of living across the country, the minimum standard of living? Then that's quite questionable. And also, the refugees, the Sri Lankan Tamil refugees, are camped near the coastal areas. Again, there is also an ongoing issue between the Tamil fishermen and the Sri Lankan fishermen. So that also poses a challenge in the way these refugees are treated in Tamil Nadu. So yes, as far as the development is concerned, I think the political dynamics that is constantly changing both in India, Tamil Nadu, and in Sri Lanka is kind of influencing and impacting these people at large, thereby putting them at a higher level of uncertainty and kind of in a helpless position to accept what is being given to them. I think that would be the case in most of the refugees' life. Like they don't have a choice as to pick and choose what they want or what they would like to do or like to be in, which place they want to be or they want to live at. So yes, I think that sums up. So
Yeah, that sounds right. It's true. So the situation of refugees, whether in India or any other countries, remains more or less the same as what you explained, what Bashir said, what I have told you. They have legal recognition issues. They have poor living conditions. They have issues with return and reconciliation to their own country. Uh, Even if the war is over, we have recently a country that came up uh, with long years of war and uncertainties. That's Syria. Let's see how the people or the refugee status people of Syria in many Arab countries goes back and reconciled. So these are things which has a lot of impacts in all the refugee communities, not only here, not only in India, but everywhere in the globe. Let us go to Bangladeshi migrants. Though I mentioned Bangladeshi migrants, there are a lot of people who are not migrants, they are refugees. For example, if you go to the northeast part of India, uh, especially to Assam and West Bengal, you will see a lot of Bangladeshis people who are legal migrants and refugees who had been there for years together, and they still can't go back because mass migration occurred during the Bangladesh war in 1971, and then West Bengal, Assam, and other northeastern states were predominantly affected, as is in the slide, in the sense that there was a huge influx of migrants to these states. It is difficult to estimate due to mix and legal and illegal migrants because they mixed it everywhere. So the population is difficult to be estimated. The legal status, many migrants are undocumented, leading to tensions over legal and illegal migrations. So, and they also have the same challenges, citizenships and identity, socio-economic strains, political tensions, all these things, the strain between India and Bangladesh during the illegal migration concerns, the new rules that Indian government are bringing in, the competition of resources, of jobs, and has caused a lot of socio-economic strains. All these are the challenges faced by Bangladeshi migrants. We'll go to Afghan refugees, and Afghan refugees, Bashir will be able to give us more details on that one because most of these people are concentrated in Jammu Kashmir and in New Delhi areas, right, Bashir?
I'm not much aware about these refugees, but yes, I know there are some refugees in Jammu. So, but I haven't any more information about. Yes, there were one or two instances when there were some sort of little bit of tension, but no, I'm not aware about anything more about them.
Okay, fine. No issues. Actually, these Afghan refugees started their flow to India during the invasion by.
Pardon you. I unfortunately I am not getting it properly. You were asking about Afghan refugees or Myanmar refugees?
No, Afghan refugees.
No, there isn't any Afghan refugee in Jammu and Kashmir. Myanmar refugees we have. I was speaking about Myanmar refugees, Burmese refugees.
Burmese, that is different.
There is no Afghan refugee in Jammu and Kashmir, as I know.
But we have a lot of Afghan refugees in New Delhi, in Delhi area.
Yeah, there are many refugees, not in Jammu and Kashmir.
Yeah, so they are primarily in New Delhi and surrounding areas, not in Jammu and Kashmir, right?
Not in Jammu. I am not aware. At least I am not aware.
Okay. Many are the Afghan refugees. Many of these refugees, because of the war or the invasion of Soviet Union, many of them has been registered with UNHRC, but they lack formal refugee status under the Indian law. So that is the main thing which is the with current status of Afghan refugees. And then the same thing, legal recognitions, economic opportunities, mental health situations, all those things are the common things with all refugees. But let us make a reconciliation. The socio-economic conditions of refugee communities in India. If you get into the socio-economic conditions of the refugees of these four refugees which we have, refugee community we have in India, like Tibet, relatively they are stable due to organized settlements, whereas Sri Lankan Tamils, they are more dependable on labor and agriculture. Bangladesh is mixed economic status. Some are engaged in low-skilled labors, and Afghanistan limited opportunities due to language barriers and non recognition of their qualifications and whatever. Afghan people, the refugees, they are well educated, but the problem is their education system is nowhere recognized in the world. And their social conditions, like the Tibetans have strong community network, whereas Sri Lankans have limited integration to logistic and cultural differences. Bangladeshis, they have a large number of remaining undocumented, leading to insecurity between themselves itself. And Afghans, strong community ties but struggle with integration in society. So we now go into the primary legislation. The Foreigners Act 1942. No specific definition of refugee. Refugees are considered as foreigners. This is an important clause. In Foreigners Act 1946, it was never defined. What is refugee is not defined, nor refugees are considered as foreigners. Authority and regulation. Ministry of Home Affairs regulates the entry, stay, and exit of foreigners. Okay, that is for migrants. But for refugees also, they do the regulations. Here I have something to ask you. When a person is not defined as a refugee, a government law, in the act of a state, and if there is a legal refugee in that country, how do you think that that person will be able to have a sustainable life in future, given the fact that when they can go back to their home country is not something that has to happen immediately? I mean, the act itself doesn't just define refugees. So how do you think that a refugee status in that country will be defined with appropriate levels of appropriate levels of rights that they can get? Hope you get me.
The one way of doing it is, or giving rights, is there are international these obligations on countries and international norms also, which are overseen by United Nations. Maybe that covers that.
Okay. If okay, that is one thing. Anything from Santia?
Similar thoughts, sir. Similar. Maybe the basic rights that are provided under UNHCR can be abided by, and those rights can be provided for the people in a country where there is no legal recognition of refugees.
Okay, agreed. If that is the case, and if India is not a signatory of certain laws or certain amendments or declarations from the UN, and India is not a signatory of it, and it has not ratified those agreements, then what will be the fate of the refugees?
Yeah. Ultimately, it will then depend upon the treatment given by the country without any legal cover. That could be arbitrary also. That could not be based on any convention, etc. That could be very arbitrary.
Okay. So it will depend upon the mercy of the country where they are, right?
Yes, sir. And also, what kind of a relation that the host country shares with the home country? Um, so, how important is it for the host country not to get crossed with the home country from where the refugees are coming from? So, for example, in case of Afghan refugees, uh, for any kind of refugee who come into India, and we know India is not a signatory to a lot of such conventions and declarations, though it hasn't ratified a lot, but then it has been accommodative of the refugees in a very humanitarian sense. But again, what the country has always tried to do is like they can either send them back by somewhat negotiating with the home country where the issues prevail. So one option is to send back the refugees, but as long as they are here, we can the country will try to give them at least the basics. If not give, at least the refugees might even take it. But when they take it by themselves, it can lead to unrest. So just to ensure that internal stability or the internal equilibrium is not disturbed in the country, I think the countries who are hosting the refugees willingly or unwillingly will end up providing for the basic rights of the refugees.
Agreed. In this scenario, let me ask you something, both of you. A refugee is a group of refugees from Tibet. Let us say they are stationed or they are living in a place which Indian government has allowed, that is Dharamsala or wherever it is, and they are not enjoying any rights of the Indian citizen. However, there is a population growth. When a population growth is happening within the refugee group, what would be the challenges Indian government will be having in near future and in later?
I think the challenges that the Indian government would be having in the near future and later would be one is that if the population of the Tibetan refugees is going to grow at a very considerable pace and a rate, let's say 10 years down the line, if the population grows into a very considerable size, and I think the Tibetan government in exile might actually try and expand their occupational area. That is one where the challenge of sharing the resources, which are already very minimal or very much to the. So we don't have these resources forever. These resources are being put to use on a continual basis. So if we are going to share it with someone else, then that would become an issue. Uh, so that is one challenge that the country is already facing and would be facing at a very alarming rate in the future if the population keeps growing continuously. And then the nuances or meticulous issues of the citizenship or providing for basic rights, though the government is in exile. Uh, it is also going to somehow impact the relations between India, Tibet, and China. So that triangular relationship also comes into play, again putting us in a very tight spot between towards China. So already the foreign policy is very, very complex and dynamic and also volatile when it comes to India-China relations. So, uh, you know, kind of providing or accommodating Tibet only increases that challenge for us. So, yeah, these are the two challenges that I see.
Fair enough. Anything from Bashir?
Rightly said. These are the challenges. And growing population always puts pressure on the local community also. Besides there being documentation issues, etc. So these are the challenges.
So we have challenges in the resources, and we have the challenges in expansion, because that means that they are taking away the land and other other legal rights of that national people, right?
Right.
True. Now we'll go into the refugee registrations and right. Refugees must register with the Foreign Regional Registration Office just to know that they are refugees, but that doesn't give any kind of legal coverage for the registration. No formal legal rights specifically for refugees' rights demand on government policies. Challenges in law and policies. Legal documentation issues, which we have done, employment opportunities, access to education, even access to the education are limited for refugees. Now, employment opportunities, limited job opportunities due to legal restrictions. Many refugees are confined to low-skilled, informal sector jobs and also low wages and low insecurity. And access to educations, yes, barrier to accessing quality educations, especially higher educations due to financial constraints and lack of documentations, language barriers and curriculum differences. All those things add up to their challenges. And the healthcare access. We have these healthcare issues with all these refugees in India. Not only in India, many countries we do have seen that one. They have limited access to healthcare services, often due to the financial constraints and lacks of awareness about available resources. And some refugees are at a higher risk of mental health due to trauma and stress. Then we have, as what we mentioned, housing and living conditions. We have precarious situations for that. Also, we have social integrations. Refugees are often facing social isolations and discrimination among the local communities. So this is what is happening. Also, we have political and security concerns, where politically they are not accredited to the country of origin, the country or they're staying, or they are vulnerable to political instabilities, and they always live with a fear of deportation to their country if a government gets changed. Limited support and resources, and gender-specific challenges like women and children may face challenges such as gender-based violence or lack of reproductive health cares and educations and all those things. Do you have any knowledge about international organizations involved in refugee affairs? Any one of you, please.
UNHCR.
UNHCR, what they do?
They monitor the refugees, the status of the refugees, their living conditions, their about the refugee status, etc.
Okay. Any other
Or
agencies?
we have similar organizations working under United Nations, like we have their organization in similar sort of, which look after these refugee crisis in Lebanon. They, like we have their United Nations. I cannot recollect the exact name. Refugee welfare, something like that. UN, and again there is another such organization in Palestine also, who work under the aegis of UN.
Okay. So we have major international organizations involved in refugee affairs like United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, That's the main organization. It was formed in 1950 for international actions to protect refugees and resolve refugee problems worldwide. Then after that, IOM, International Organization for Migration, came in, where works to ensure orderly and human management of migration, including assisting in voluntary returns and resettlements of refugees. And that's another organization. And when it comes into the welfare, the United Nations Children Fund, UNICEF, focuses on protection of welfare of children, including refugee children. And then the World Food Programs, WFP, delivers assistance to emerging and works communities, which improves nutrition and build resilience within the refugee group. You have United Nations Children's Fund, who takes care of the refugee children, and also the World Food Programs, which I just mentioned now. There is International Committee of Red Cross, who take care of the victims of armed conflict and as well as refugees. And there are certain non-governmental organizations in many countries, like the Medicine Sans Frontiers, MSF, and Save the Children. All these people take care of refugees around the world. Now, the economic and social conditions of refugees. Tibetan economic conditions: engage in agriculture, handicraft, and small businesses. They are well versed in those things, but limited higher education and job opportunities in the mainstream economy. And Sri Lankan Tamil economic conditions: employment in camps, restricted employment opportunities, and dependence on informal labors, challenges camp living conditions, and access to resources are highly restricted. Santhia, I would like to know whether there is any project that you were involved as a case study regarding this camp accommodations of Tamil refugees.
No, sir, I wasn't involved in any such. I
Nothing.
haven't done much of case study in that angle also.
Okay, fine. So the social conditions across the communities of refugees, identity, as we said, identity and integration, it has become a big issue. Refugees preserve cultural identity through schools and religious institutions. Community support strong networks, but face issues integrating full into Indian society. Educational barriers, limited access to quality educations due to financial and bureaucratic challenges. International organizations' roles: they protect and aid the refugees. Refugee registrations, they take care of the refugee registrations. Also, international organizations, as I told you before, they give a lot of support to the refugees to see that their community is preserved, the food, the healthcare sectors are being taken care. Many of this being taken care by the UN organizations. And the UNICEF mandate of children welfare focuses on education, healthcare, and psychosocial supports for displaced children. Rights protections ensure the rights of refugee children are upheld. And NGOs involvement, many of the NGOs like MSF, Save the Children, healthcare, education, etc., give legal health aids. Partnership with international agencies support advocates to refugee rights. So these are the involvement of the NGOs with the refugees. Is there anything which you would like to ask? Any questions?
I
I would like
want
to.
to.
Please, sir,
Either
go
of you.
ahead. Go ahead. Bashi, sir, please.
Bashir, tell me.
I want just a clarification about, as to say, we take example that India allows Afghanistan refugees into India. So what is the mechanism to prevent anybody who cannot be otherwise a refugee, who could be some sort of an adventurer looking out for economic opportunities, otherwise okay, no issue with respect to security, safety in his parent country. So how to identify, number one, how to identify the actual refugees? People may come in the garb of refugee who otherwise are not refugees. What is the mechanism to do that? Number one. Number two, do we have separate registrars for, say, deaths and births or marriages for refugees?
Fine. There is something called Refugee Status Determination, RSD. It is called RSD. I don't know how far you know about it. It's a dual system used by Indian government, and we depend on UNHRC to identify whether a person is really a refugee or not. That is one thing. Second thing, which you have asked me right now, is there is a birth or death registration. Is that what you asked me, right? For refugees, right?
No, right.
Yeah. It has, see, as it is, we normal citizens, we use municipalities to register our birth and death. Here in refugees, what Indian government has been doing is that there is nothing called in the grassroots level. They have to get themselves registered of the death and birth with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Just like refugee, a birth of a refugee is a refugee, so he has to be registered as a refugee. Hope it's clear.
Thank you, sir. Pretty clear.
Thank you. Yeah.
So could be with the marriages also.
Yes, marriages, that, the newborn, and even and by default, anyone new coming in as a refugee to India, all are being registered under the Ministry of Home Affairs.
But the first part is very interesting. The first part, identification of refugees. Then it must be becoming a very rigorous and tiresome exercise.
Look, it is called refugee status determination. This is the process itself is called refugee status determination, RSD. This is a process which is being done by UNICEF and UNO. Here they have, different levels of recognitions. Now, first they will decide whether this particular person can be a refugee to some country or not. That is the first way they do it. And second thing is that there are certain countries which accept refugees with certain levels. They have certain cutoff limits. And then there are certain legislative frameworks on refugees for all the countries. So UNHRC works on that one to find out whether this person or a particular person who has been identified to be a good as a refugee, or he is legally binding to be a refugee, can go to which country, that like to India or to Bangladesh or to Soviet Union or to Europe or to US. They decide that one. And there is a legal framework that decides those things. So once those things are finished, actually the role of Indian government will be left. Only the political role is there, which, for example, the Modi government came in and said that, okay, we accept Bangladeshi refugees or we accept Afghani refugees, 100,000 Afghani refugees for a period of 5 years. So based on that one, UNHRC will communicate with Indian government and they finalize the final list. However, as you said, there is a risk factor that the refugee can be a threat to the country. So this part of the thing, once they come back to India or they get the refugee status in India, the Indian government is watching on them closely to understand if they are being a threat or not. If they are a threat, they will get deported. That's the condition which Indian government always put for refugees.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, Bashir. Santia, anything from your side?
Yes, sir. I have this question. So, when we speak of refugee, it is already an international matter. So, in that case, let's just say, in the case of Afghan refugees, so we know that USA had a very prominent presence in Afghanistan, right? Until the Taliban took over and they decided to just look into their own internal matters and they kind of pulled back their armed forces. But now, my question is that how much a third party influences the decision and the way a particular group of refugees are treated by the host countries? How much does that happen? And to what extent has it played out in the four different refugees that we are studying now?
Listen, this is a very tricky question. It's rather a question which you have to raise with the political parties, but I will give you an answer. With my experience, I'll give you an answer. For example, there are different levels of different refugees in India. Bangladeshi refugees, Tibetan refugees, Afghanis, a lot of refugees are there. But in recent times, we have seen that Indian government had been trying to deport many of the Bangladeshi refugees back to Bangladesh because of certain political reasons. But before doing that, what happened is that they took the international organization of UNHRC in their confidence, and they made it very clear with UNHRC that they are posing threat to the national security. Now, given the fact there are two things which UNHRC or any government organization will raise. Here, two things are there. One is if a government where is like India, where the refugees are, for India, it's a host country for the refugees, and they want to deport a certain amount of refugees for XYZ reasons, they will sit with the government of India to understand the reason behind it. There are 2-3 reasons that really matters a lot. If the host country wants to deport them, they have to prove it beyond doubt that this particular category of refugees are causing threat to the legal system of the host country. Number 2, they should make a clear and vivid understanding with the international organization saying that these refugees, whoever had been accepted, has surpassed their acceptable limits because of the economic and social conditions which they cannot take care of. For example, if India has agreed that over a period of 5 years, we will accept 1 lakh refugees to live in our country, and we will take care of them. UNHRC will send 1 lakh India refugees. Okay, but over a period of after 5 years, Indian government will always accept the number to be 1 lakh, which is not practical by nature. It will go more. In such a condition where the population increases, and if the host country is not able to take care of the well-being, whatever limited they are, and is causing a threat to their society and to the security of that country. And one more reason is the international organization who has been the pivotal who has the pivotal role in getting these refugees in the country is not able to support them to the extent they need, then obviously they have to agree with the deportations, and it happens like that. I hope it's clear with you, Cynthia.
Yes, sir. Got that. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's the way. That's the way it works. See, it's a dual system. Any refugee being in a country of in the host country, they are always being what to say, they are always being under a dual system of treatment. They cannot follow the system what UN is saying 100%, nor they can follow the 100% of the host country. So they are being in between. So they have to see, that is the one reason why I told you before. They always live in a fear of being deported. So their being in that host country is not something which is guaranteed for life. It is something which is very temporary, or it can change with the change in the government policies of the host countries. Okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now we will go into the major challenges for refugees. As we know, we discussed all these things just now. One of the major challenge is the documentation issues. They will not get any Aadhaar card. If it is in India, they will not get any Aadhaar card. And that in India, though, refugees are being given a registration certificate. It's a kind of ration card like, but that has no value. That's another issue. Legal standings, uncertain legal status, lack of formal refugee recognition, so they don't have any legal status as to exercise legal rights like voting and all those things. They have problems with job opportunities. They cannot go into having job opportunities. They have financial imbalances. The stability of the finance is taken for a ride. And they have healthcare access limitations, mental health supports, which they always want for and which they hardly get it. They have problems with the integration into the social economic culture of the host country, and overcrowded camps, or just like for the Tamilians, the living conditions. All those are the challenges they face, basically. So that's it for the refugees. Anything more you can ask me, or if you want to have any notes or anything like that, let me know.
So I have one question.
Yeah.
So refugees are people who basically move out of a country because of a certain unfavorable situation in their homeland, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
but this population, when they move into a host country, how much of a leverage, does the host country have on the home country for hosting their population, or is it vice versa applicable also?
It depends on certain situation. For example, if Tibetans were forced to come to India because of the invasion by China, right? Now, if you think that Tibetans are supposed to be sent back to their country and they should get back their rights as Tibetans. India should have a political understanding, or India should have that kind of a political strength to convince China not to get involved with the local organizations or local governments of Tibet, which India doesn't have. In this situation, what happened is that India plays a double role. Here, the one is India accepts Tibetans as refugees, so that they keep them in our country. And secondly, India uses these Tibetans in certain areas where they feel that they will become useful to Indian community. One such area is the military. You have seen that Tibetan border force is there in India. Why there is no Bangladeshi border force? Right. So Tibetan border force are mostly Tibetan people employed and Indians mixed together, and they are being recruited in Indian Army, and they play a pivotal role in navigating through certain areas of the hilly sections of Himalayas, and they play an important role in the security of India. Given the fact India take that leverage, because they know that by no reason they will become informers or they will be helping China out. They will be more involved in keeping India happy, or the Indian requirements, so that one time they feel that they will get back their country. So more or less, for example, but when it is come to Bangladesh, that Bangladeshi refugees, when we decided to send them back, India was very strong with Bangladesh that they have to take back their own people. And Bangladesh had no other options. And they took out all those refugees. They made it very clear to understand who are the refugees, and they have been deporting them. Even for Myanmar refugees, Rohingya tribes and Myanmar refugees, there are two people. Rohingya tribes, the Muslim community, India didn't do much to help the Rohingya tribes, but when it came to the normal Myanmar refugees, India accepted that refugees, but India had been playing a political role in seeing that Burma takes over all these people once and they get stable. However, they got a lot of influence from Chinese governments, and that's the reason why things doesn't develop up in the way which India really wanted to do that. So it depends upon the ruling party, or the government, or the conditions there in the country, which can really decide whether the host country can put a pressure on them to send back or give the refugees which they have accepted, who are actually the nationals of that country, to be back in their country. For example, Syria. Syrian refugees are all over in Gulf countries. Now they started going back because the country is back into a neutral government, and this neutral government has been influenced by all the Arab nations, and whoever in Syrian refugees are there in this Arab nation has been sent back. Normally they are going back voluntarily. Some are being sent back because they know that even if they go back, they have their life, they have their security, they have everything there. I hope it's clear for you, Cynthia.
Yes, sir, it is clear.
Anything else from Bashir?
Thank you, sir. It was very informative.
Take
We
care.
learned lot of
Anyone?
things.
Yeah, tell me.
We learn lot of things about which the subject which we usually come across through newspapers, but not knowing the niceties or the nuances of the issue.
Yeah, see, this is why I keep telling when I am taking class, let us be interactive. If we are not interactive, we will become bookish. And for this course, especially for this courses related to diaspora, migration, refugees, and all, it is worthless to become to be a bookish if you don't interact and if you don't come prepared with questions. I, as a person who is trying to impart knowledge on you, will have no clue as to what level you have the knowledge of. See, when you both are interacting with me, I know exactly, yes, they know this much, they have problem this much, they are, I can share with them. These are things, most of the things which I share are nowhere in the slides. Maybe it is nowhere in the unit also, but it is based or it is related to the unit. So please do interact. That's the most important thing. If we interact, it will be easy and it makes more easy for me and for anyone who is taking a lecture to, give you more insight upon what you are studying and what it is in reality, right?
Yes, thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We'll meet next week again. Okay, we'll come up with some other topics. Let's see. And
Yes,
in the
sir. Very much
meantime,
looking forward.
yeah, sure. Thank you. And in the meantime, Santhia and Bashir, whoever, I have shared my email ID. Anything you want, like case study, be specific with what you want and send me a mail. I travel a lot, so I'll keep the mails. I will read the mails. I'll definitely be assured that I will respond the mails and you will get what you want for sure. Even if it's delayed by a day or so, it will reach you people. Okay, even the notes, if you like to have notes or anything like that, please let me know. I will be more than happy to share with you. Okay?
Many thanks, sir.
Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you. Take care. Take care.